All right, it is 8:08 p.m. We will call this city council budget work session to order. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Doing roll call, all voting members are present. We will open the floor for public comment. Just a reminder of some of the ground rules. There's a 3-minute time limit. No personal or political attacks. Please keep it to city business. George Heeman will be the timekeeper. There's a 15-minute maximum allotted time. If there's multiple people here to speak on one issue, please assign a spokesperson. So we'll open the floor for public comment. George, do you have any public comment?
No, not right now.
All right. Sounds good. So we will close the floor for public comment. We will move on to work item E1, City Council Budget Work Session.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. So we just got a budget packet in front of you, just kind of running through like we did last time, see what we can all get to tonight. But starting with it, if you look at the memo, we have the general notes and assumptions on there. No real big changes there other than we had a couple of programs that we were able to cancel, so now our general fund is expected to increase by $3,700 versus we had a slight decrease in there the last time this was presented to you. So just some cleanup there that's resulted in some cost savings for us, so that's always a positive. Other changes that have happened since the last work session too is we got our certified local government aid amount for 2027. That came in slightly above what we had in the placeholder budget, so that also kind of factored into that $3,700 net increase we now have in the general fund. And then we also had a slight increase in our rental license projected income for 2027, just because we have some more accurate numbers there now for what those things are going to look like.
Does that rental also, is that also included in the $3,700 surplus?
Yep, that's also included in there. Same kind of deal that we have with Rum River, since they do our rental inspections and compliance, that we retain 20% of that revenue.
Okay, so essentially 2 items came in under budget, 1 came in over budget, and we have a net surplus of $3,700.
Yeah, we got 2 revenues that increased,
Yep.
and then 1 set of expenses that decreased there. That's resulting in that
Okay.
$3,700 now being there.
Got it.
Kind of working through our budget work session packet. If you skip ahead to the 2027 budget schedule, tonight planning on covering some more of the operating budgets, kind of looking more so for your guys' feedback and any questions that you had on anything, and then would hope to get through the CIP tonight so that we can at least identify our items for 2027, and you guys can have any questions on kind of the stuff in our short term, and ask department heads with any questions that you have on any of those items that are there.
And if I could just interject, it's going to be very important for the city here to be in a place where we will be able to add our final preliminary levy and resolutions for approval to the September 15th City Council meeting, as Nick will be done the very next day. So if at any time we think that as we lead up to even at the first meeting in September that we are going to need more time to discuss or to vet out some things, we are going to want to call another special meeting, workshop, to discuss items, so we aren't at any risk to not meet our deadline. Thank you.
Yeah, so then kind of going past that, looking ahead, we've got a September 1st budget meeting set. Again, that'll kind of just be a review of the operating budgets, assuming we get through all the CIP stuff tonight. Probably won't revisit that until after the preliminary budget is set. And then at that time, I'll kind of give you guys an update on tax levy and our tax rate, and just kind of review that and see where your guys' kind of thoughts are on it. And then the last thing on the budget schedule is that September 15th meeting. Like Josie said, we want to make sure we've got budget in line so that we can get that preliminary levy set, because that's our last chance for any sort of approval of that to get to the county for those preliminary tax statements that will go out in October or November. So kind of skipping ahead, we've kind of covered everything in this packet the last time. No real significant changes there other than kind of what I've touched on so far. So if we want to skip ahead to where we get to the Excel spreadsheets, it should be page 19 of your guys' packets. That gets us to our line by line, starting with our general fund revenues. Kind of ran through all of this, just a quick overview at the last budget work session, kind of letting you guys know kind of detail, any sort of changes, what I highlighted for the most part in there. So at this point in time, just if you guys have any questions on any of our revenue stuff or any of our expenses by departments, let us know. Me and Josh did discuss a little bit more in detail some of our things and reviewing some of the supplies for the general fund. So we do have a couple of changes that will be coming with the September 1st budget update. So I can kind of let Josh talk on those numbers and kind of why we're going to be making those changes too. So if you want to take it away, otherwise I can start and give them the overview and you can talk a little more on it.
I can give them some on it.
All right.
So on our salt sand budget, we're looking like we can go from 62 to 55 on that. Obviously, we could be going with our 2-inch policy a little more, but I think over the past few years, I think 55 is a good number. We can save some on the budget on that. Is it not close enough?
There you go.
Do you want me to start over?
No, I think you're good.
Okay,
Came in under budget potentially on the sand, or reducing the budget on the salt sand.
yes.
Okay,
And obviously, in a snowy year, we might have to stick more to always 2-inch policy.
sure.
But I think the 55 would be a good number on that one.
Okay.
And then 231, what was that one?
Should be street maintenance. We
Yeah.
had 10,000 in that budget,
Yep.
dropping it down to 7,000.
Because our roads have been all kind of updated and are a lot better, we're using less maintenance on patching and stuff like that. And then.
Great.
Go ahead. And then on the mosquito fogging, the mosquito spray, there was 7,500 in there. We can reduce that down to 4,500. And for the brush and compost screening, that was at 9,000. I think we can move that to 5,000 if we can burn the brush pile. And
Yeah.
I think we already I think we'll get approved on that because now the Evercat fuel isn't there anymore, as long as you guys are okay with us burning it.
Yeah, I know we had talked about that, and it just seemed like fun, and maybe we could make an event out of it. I remember we talked about that, but at the time, Evercat was a dangerous thing, and now their silos aren't even there anymore, so. I
And
think-
I actually was gonna talk to the fire department, see if maybe they wanted to do a practice burn out there.
Sure, yeah, I think that's great. And then also for the emerald ash borer trees, it's better to just burn it on site anyway, so.
Yeah, we were planning on doing that kinda anyways,
Right.
so I think we can reduce that one too.
So could we potentially see savings this year if we decide to burn it, if we can get it moving and burn before winter instead of paying for wood chipping and all that? Is that potential savings this year?
That would, be savings on this year's budget as well.
Do you guys need direction to go forward there with that, or you just have consensus enough to look into potentially burning instead of chipping?
I think as long as Al's okay with us burning it and you guys are telling me you're okay with me burning it, we'll burn it.
All right, Erica, are you familiar with that discussion? So we didn't used to take brush, but then we had a storm that kind of pushed us to taking brush, and I think it's a great service for the residents. So we drafted a policy and approved a policy for anything under 3-inch, like probably 3 years ago. But now we have to dispose of it, and we were paying someone to come and chip it. But it's expensive, kind of. But at the time, to avoid the chipping, we talked about burning it, but then the fire department didn't like it because the fuel center right next door, so it makes sense. So now,
There'll be no more wood chips?
Well, we still have all that wood chip pile there.
there's a lot.
That nobody,
I
mean,
really like that wood chip aisle, but that's fine.
There's a lot.
But I do like fires too.
And you can, even at Northland Landscaping, they give you a bucket for $10 too. So a lot of people have just been going over to do that because then they don't have to load it themselves. They can just get it dumped in for $10. So,
We do have that big, from that last event, I bet you we still have over 3/4 of it sitting
yeah,
there.
3-4 years
People
left.
should come get those wood chips. They're great for
Yeah.
your garden. It makes nice path, so.
Yep.
But yeah,
Okay, well, that sounds good. Hopefully that could be a thing, and I still like the idea of having some sort of event around that, but I don't know, the fire department would be the ultimate call on something like that, so
I prefer to just let the fire department burn it. I get involved in an event.
that's fair, yeah, no problem. Cool. Anything else, Josh?
That's what I found.
All right. Well, I appreciate you digging on that.
Yeah, so overall, it'll be about a $17,000 cost savings there for the budget for 2027 with those changes made. Then kind of getting back to it, do you have any other questions, kind of department by department? Otherwise, we can kind of move on to the CIP, but let you guys kind of look it over and let me know if you got anything right now.
I don't have anything specifically. Do we have, has there been a discussion with PD or liquor or any other departments, if there's any nickel and dime stuff like that? Has that been like kind of ongoing consideration type of thing?
Yep, had ongoing discussions with all the department heads kind of to look at anything that we could potentially reduce and all of that. I know with PD, we do currently have some auto expense stuff that we kind of may need to reevaluate because we are kind of running into more repairs with our fleet getting a little older and some of that stuff aging out. Our repair expenses are a little higher than where we would hope that they're going to be, so that might be a potential bump that we're still looking at for 2027. As far as cost cutting stuff, there wasn't a whole lot there from what kind of me and Travis have both seen there. And then as far as liquor store goes, me and Keith had our discussions and kind of made our updates back when this budget was originally put together and haven't really had any significant changes up to this point. Sales-wise, we're still kind of trending in the same sales numbers in 2026 as we saw in 2025, so that's may just kind of be our new baseline. So there may be some updated revenue projections coming here shortly, but just trying to get through these next couple of months to get a better idea of where that's at, because the further into the year we get, the better we can kind of project out where we think things will go in 2027.
Keith, and maybe Nick, you would remember, what did we plan for the THC stuff? I think we planned a some reduction. Do you remember how much?
For this year and next year, it's at 200,000. I was just looking at that actually a little bit ago, and trending average, we're gonna end right around that this year. I have a feeling that if the prohibition takes place, that things are gonna change. I also think there'll be a kind of a run on hemp-derived THC when people realize that they may not be able to get that
Stock
anymore.
up.
But there's also a lot of stuff going on at the federal level to delay the ban for a month right now is
do
the
you see,
latest.
can you remind me when that ban's like looking to come forward?
It was supposed to happen November 1st.
Okay,
So they're gonna go right up to the deadline and maybe have a solution and maybe kick the can down the road.
so we'll
We're-
sell out, kick it down
Yeah.
the can.
Yep, so we have to just keep that in mind, if that does, and right now THC is about 4.5% of our sales at the liquor store. We would have to come up with that 4.5% somewhere else to have the same numbers, but I'll do everything I can to make that happen too.
And if you buy the product before November 1st, can you still sell it until you're out?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
right
because
now.
that might be something to consider. Maybe it's worth it to stock up.
Well,
Maybe it's-
I'll tell you right now, like, I'm taking full advantage of, there's a lot of vendors that are panicking getting out because they have to, their production is mass quantities, and so they're getting their stuff done and they're getting out of the market. There's others that are investing more in. If you look at our blowout section at the store, there's a 3 different THC value packs in there right now, so we're always looking for those deals where we can pass that on to shoppers and make some money doing it.
One thing I understand about the THC, it's the growers that are gonna control that. So for Keith to get the THC drinks, it has to go through the growers. And Keith and I had this conversation. it may take the THC drinks out of, like, the gas stations
Right.
and those kind of places, so that they won't be able to sell that product. And if that's the case, it's actually gonna help
Benefit.
the liquor store
That
benefit.
should be the case. I think it's a
It's-
lot more
it-
dangerous
it-
to have them at a grocery store than a liquor store.
But that's,
Yeah.
I know somebody that he's got a grower's license, and he's investing $1 million into his growing facility. And he's like, I think it's a great idea, because no, they have to come and get it from him rather than through a third-party type of thing. So it may be
A
that.
blessing.
A blessing, so I don't want to count that out until,
Yeah, it's gonna be a wild ride, but we're gonna get there.
Maybe we'll know before September 18th. That would be nice.
Maybe.
Then we could budget a little differently.
Nope, but just be prepared for that number to potentially change,
Okay,
so.
sounds good.
Yeah, and just with that too, hard to project if you lose those sales, if they're coming back to you in another way too. So it just could be something that ends up being a zero in the budget too. So just something that we'll have to continue preparing for as we kind of get closer and they figure out where we're going to sit with that type of stuff too.
Sounds good. There's no cooler doors or nothing else needed, no refrigerators. That door is fixed and working, and no more slips, no more.
Yep. The only thing I was talking to Nick about tonight is we'll be looking at I'm always looking at ways to cost, or to cut costs too. I'm cheap by nature. But like the lights above the front counter, we had one go out this spring, and we just had one go out last weekend. And I don't know the exact amount, but it might be cheaper for us to just replace those fixtures, because instead of replacing a bulb, we have to replace like pretty much the whole light. Yeah, so we might as well replace them, and it'll be cheaper. But we're gonna run the numbers on that and then bring that to you guys. But, we're always looking at ways to cut costs and increase revenue.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so if there's no other questions at this time on the operating budgets, we can kind of jump ahead to the CIP detail. It's page 52 of your guys' packet. I can give you a sec to get there, so just let me know when you're ready.
CIP what?
CIP detail 2027 is the name of the item, and then it's page 52 of the packet.
Got it.
So I did have a question. I don't know if you and Jason have talked about this. I didn't think to ask Jason earlier, but it seems like every road project we've had pretty much over the last 3 or 4 years without fail has come in significantly under budget. And I know we budget a lot of money for that stuff. Is there any way that we could take our historical, maybe say over the last 3 years, and calculate, hey, we've come under budget 15% every time? Can we take that and maybe take a little bit off of that budget? The whole goal is to tax the people the least amount, right? And to be as accurate as we possibly can be. Is that something that you guys have discussed?
Yeah, so Jason actually just reevaluated both of the numbers for the 2027 street project. We were talking about this a few weeks ago. They were just kind of checking our plan versus what we had anticipated in the budget. So those numbers are as accurate as we think we can get them. Jason said, obviously, you always hope that it comes in 5%,
Right.
6% under what's budgeted, but he said realistically he thinks that's what needs to be in there, just if we don't get the most competitive bids, because it doesn't always work out that way, that's the number that they anticipate us kind of needing to be at. Obviously, we can hope it comes in short of that, but I don't think that we want to get too aggressive in projecting that and kind of put ourselves in a bad situation when those bids come in over what we maybe have projected.
Sure, and was he able to knock down that at all, or were they still at where they're at?
So the seal coat project went up. That more so just had to do with the miles of street that we're looking at doing in 2027. So it's actually dropping our 2028 projected number, and then our 2026 projects coming in under, because there was one street included in there that didn't end up going with that bid just because of timing with it. It ended up getting pushed into the 2027 one. So like overall between those 3 years kind of all came out flat, but just the timing of it's going to change slightly there too. So yeah, projecting out long-term, he still thinks that the numbers that we have in there is as close and as comfortable as we can be for where we think those costs are going to be too.
Okay.
So if everyone's at that CIP detail for 2027, I can kind of just cover by department, kind of the big talking points. At City Hall, we're gonna be looking at a new phone system. Our current phone system was, we believe, around 7 years old, and that we're starting to have phones fail on us, and that technology is just kind of getting dated, so it'll be a much-needed upgrade for our City Hall for just being able to communicate with the public and making sure those lines stay open.
So I have a question on that. So every time we look at phones and internet and every other technology thing, it seems like it just seems inefficient when I'm signing the checks. It seems like there's a lot of things going a bunch of different ways. It's kind of like the audio video that we had in here. It wasn't really set up right, and I've talked to Councilmember Peterson about this. And have we ever done like a technology audit or something that's done by somebody that doesn't have profit to make by selling us stuff that we don't need?
I did reach out to, when I went to the LMCIT training, they were talking about hiring someone at the LMC with that was kind of for some of that. They're just, I think, getting into it because we're not the only city who's struggling trying to piecemeal things
Right.
together. Especially cities our size, we're typically not big enough to have an in-house staff to do it, but yet IT, typically there's the AV, there's the regular IT, there's all these different divisions of it. So they didn't have anybody to come through and evaluate systems yet. But that I think is on their kind of list of what they're hoping to be able to provide as a service, but
What's the county have for IT? They have one or multiple, or?
I
any?
believe the county uses, are they still using that same gentleman that is from out of the area?
The county had switched to their own IT, so they have in-house. However, they still retain contracts with certain people to do certain things. Like we deal with a contract vendor for our records management that their IT can't do.
Right. So I think that that's more for like specialized stuff, but they have maybe a staff of a few people.
There's
We
more
can
than
find out,
one.
but yeah, so I know if there's AV issues, like when you're there for a meeting, they have somebody come over from a different, from the IT department.
I guess I would just like to see us put a hold on spending more money on technology until we actually know, because this whole AV thing was a total mind-blowing situation for us. We have somebody on our city council who was able to do what people wanted tens of thousands of dollars to do, and he's able to do it for, basically $0?
Under 100?
Under $100. And like, we get all these companies and all this stuff that's thrown at us and sold to us, and it's like, who can you really trust? And I know the phones are important, but at the same point, why are the phones crashing? It shouldn't, 7 years, it has to be more of an IT issue, not a phone issue. Like some sort of, this place is a mess.
We know.
Yeah, so I don't think it's the phones, I think it's
But I
something
think
else going on.
Maybe one of the things that I've talked to other staff, and including Stephanie here, because there are cities, like, for example, the city of Princeton has a in-house IT person, that's what they do, and they've contracted with other people to use that service. So they're not selling a product, we can reimburse if we're able to, and kind of maybe work with some city who has a person. That's like kind of the next option we're looking at. And can we pay your salary to come evaluate our system, and they're not going to be hopefully biased, they
That's a
might
good
be
idea.
biased towards what they're using at their city, but they're not paid by a company, because we just don't have anybody to get that unbiased, exact, for sure unbiased opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I just hate to see us look at investing more money before we actually know what's going on. I know Councilmember Peterson has a bunch of different ideas for internet and like closed loop stuff. I don't know anything about it, but I think redundancies, everything. Before we talk about spending more money before we actually know, I think we should just put a pause on that stuff, the technology related items, and make sure that if we're gonna spend money, it's long-term the best solution, not just a continuous Band-Aid like we did with this AV stuff for, on and off for the last 10 years. Like, I just hate to see us spend money and have to go through and do it again. So I think that's a good idea if you can get somebody out here that's knows what they're doing and is not going to try and sell you a product. So I like that idea, but
I do have a question regarding, even though you're saying you want to put a pause on it, what's the current system like? What was the proposed 7687, was that a refresh, or was that a change of equipment, or what was the?
That'd be a change of the physical equipment, swapping out the phones and maybe going to a new vendor, kind of just depends what we can get for services and who can kind of offer us what we're looking for.
So just the phones that people are actually using, not the actual back-end system?
So they're a voice over IP phone system. It would just be replacing the actual hardware of the phone. But how they go through our system of internet is,
I don't think it's the
Not what we're
hardware. I think it's the internet. I mean, we saw so many issues with the stuff here.
we switched to
We
internet
do.
though and still had the same issue. And we've had 3 internet providers since we've had this phone. We first had Genesis, which is now GigFire, I think still right now. And then we've had CenturyLink, and now we have Midco. So we've had different things and still had issues.
But is it the
But
wiring
if-
in the
If it's
building?
internal, then it doesn't matter if you're changing from the building to there if the problem's inside the walls.
That's very possible. We have not had, to my knowledge, we have not had new wires pulled, except for where we've been adding. The only time I can think of adding new wires and cables was when we added additional cubicles years ago, but not actually pulled for like new Ethernet lines or anything like that.
I would agree. Just after working in a school system, we have lots of Ethernet cables everywhere, and we are changing them out all of the time. But VoIP systems do require updating, and so it does happen just like your iPad and your cell phones, where the updates no longer work for that system. So it wouldn't surprise me that a 7-year age out would be pretty typical. So just an FYI.
Okay. How often I know we've had a few phone issues in the last month or two. What would you say on average, like 1 a month?
And what is the problem?
Our most recent outage was the provider was having issues at their facility that shut down our phones for a few hours in the middle of the day.
Nothing we can do about that.
Yep, nothing
We
we
know
can do
that that
about
was not
that.
hardware related.
And
Okay.
then we've had a couple things like with scheduled internet outages or unexpected internet outages, that also takes our phone system down just because they are internet based. I would say other problems we have is we have had actual phones fail on us and have had to swap a few out.
Yeah, I think we've had three phones fail, but probably the bigger concern that seems to be reoccurring at least every couple weeks is where people can't hear people on the phone. So they'll call here, we can hear them, but they can't hear us, or vice versa. And we don't know what's causing that. The phone provider doesn't know what's causing that.
So do you just call back and then it works, right?
Yep.
Oh, you'll have that with any technology. Okay. So most of the outages that we've had have been planned internet type outages or provider, or occasionally you'll get, what'd you say, once a month or a couple times a month? Couple times a month where you have to call them back or they have to call back? Okay. I guess I don't know how detrimental that is, but I would rather hold off on that for next year. Figure out more about, maybe there's a better technology available. Maybe you could do some sort of wireless. I don't know, I don't trust, you're shaking your head, no, but I don't trust what we got
Wires are
going
better
on
than
here.
wireless. Wireless just leads to interference and more problems. If you actually have a physical cable, then.
Well, that's fair, but I don't trust what we have going on here for all of our IT stuff. I just don't trust it anymore. We've been through this boat 50 times, and every 2 years, it's like, let's spend more money, let's spend more money. When are we gonna actually look at what the heck is going on?
That's gonna cost money.
Oh, it is, yeah.
So you're gonna we can spend $8,000, new equipment, or you spend $30,000 having somebody come in and rewire the building.
We don't know that though, Steve.
I'm gonna tell you what, you get somebody to come in and run new Cat5 wire.
Oh, if that's what we have to do.
It isn't
Yeah.
gonna be $7,000. It'll be 20 or 30.
It depends what we have to do, that's the thing.
Well,
we
that's
shouldn't
the only
just
way
be-
you're gonna know it.
Yeah, but we shouldn't just be spending the people's money without having a long-term solution. That's why we're in the situation where we got, previous councils
You
have
can't
approved
just keep,
$80,000.
you just can't keep something for 7, 8 years in the way technology is today. Flipping cell phones. 2 years. You get a new cell phone. You're complaining about that iPad, which is probably newer than their phone system, and you complain about it not working
I'm
correctly.
not, I still use it. We're not
But you
replacing
still
them.
complained about it, and you still brought it up earlier to replace them. So you can't have one and have but not the other. So that's the whole point. If you can't do business, you might as well shut the doors.
I
And if you
understand.
can't, people can't make phone calls, you might as well shut the doors.
I understand that.
My life revolves around phone calls,
I
all
think
day
we're-
long.
I think you're being a little extreme.
Well, I think everything's
between-
being extreme when you want to start cutting something that
I'm not
it's-
cutting, I want to make sure we're on the right path so we don't
Right.
keep kicking the can down the road, like what's happened with previous councils the last 10 years here. We got 100 grand in this AV setup, and Nick just came in and fixed it for under 100 bucks. Like, we need to start looking and being creative and not just spending the people's money just to get it over with. It doesn't work in the real world. Houses don't work like that, we shouldn't either.
I think what we were doing was asking staff or directing staff to take a look at maybe doing an audit and how much it would cost and if they could get back to us in the next 45 days, because we have time before we have to approve this phone system. So just, you know.
Right.
Let's
When-
at
when-
least see how much it would cost and what might be involved in doing it. That's what I thought the thought was.
It
When's
was.
the last time we switched the phone systems out?
7 years, legally.
So it was 7 years, and it was due just to old equipment. And what is the average?
Well, actually, when we went to the voice over IP, we had regular phones before. We went to the internet-based phones.
Okay. And how long are they predicted to last?
I mean, internally, we budget for every 7 years. I guess I don't know what a provider would tell you kind of the lifespan on that is, but I would imagine they would be right in that range too. They're probably gonna tell you 5.
Like Cisco's?
We had Marco phones before using regular phone lines.
Where are they now, though?
Now it's Nextera, who is bought out by Earthlink.
Okay. Well, Keith, so I see, I'm just looking, since we're talking about technology, I'm looking at a few things in water and sewer and the liquor store. And Keith, since you're here, the point of sale office computers, can you elaborate more on that? Do you think that's a necessity for next year? Is that something that you're happy with what you have? Or is it not working, or?
Well, I'll tell you that the computers we get are hand-me-downs for the
Okay.
most part.
Okay.
So, we're lucky, we've had some issues with stuff failing on us. And my understanding with, like, I just got an iPad from, I believe it was, that PD wasn't using anymore, or
Public Works.
Public Works, sorry.
Yep.
So like I said, I'm a cheapskate, I'm using
Mm-hmm.
hand-me-down stuff, it doesn't always work, and it leads to some frustration.
Okay.
This new POS office computers, I'm not sure exactly what I'm getting.
So with our tech plan, the water, sewer, and liquor store numbers that you're seeing are likely laptop or desktop replacements, just according to our technology schedule. Yeah, so it's likely sewer, water, and the liquor store. Those are going to be contributions to our technology fund to replace our laptop or desktop computers for those different individuals. So we have that big tech plan that we kind of keep everything on a rolling schedule. I believe our replacement on most of that's right around 5 years, 5 to 6 years. So kind of when we are seeing the end of life with those computers, and as they slow down, we just have them on that kind of set replacement too, just like we are kind of do all department wide. So that's what those dollar amounts are going to.
Those costs recent, or those just from the CIP from 3 to 5 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, those are recent. So every time we get new desktops or laptops in, we reevaluate what those dollar amount numbers are going to be year to year. Then kind of bringing it back up to the top too, with our municipal building, we have the furnace and AC units in there. With that, we're gonna kind of keep that number rolling. Me and Josh talked about that. We'll continue to have that year after year in our budget, because we're only going to replace those as needed. So we're never going to, well, hopefully, we're never going to have to replace the whole system at one time and have to pay out that whole $42,000 or $45,000. We'll just replace units as they kind of fail, would be the plan there for City Hall. So just trying to stretch that budget as long as possible. There's no point in replacing a system until it's kind of given us problems, is the thought there.
So I did have a couple questions there. So I haven't seen many costs or repairs for the stuff here. I don't think I've seen any since I've been signing the checks. Are Are there 2 units in City Hall, or how many units are there?
6.
There's 6?
6 furnaces.
Okay.
Yep.
And that, so you're assuming that, say if there's like the 42,000, that's to replace all 6?
Yep.
Could we just say, hey, we're gonna plan for absolute worst case, half of them fail? Even at that, I don't think you're gonna see that. Would you have to replace all 6 at one time? Or,
There's the possibility, since they're all the same age, they could all have the same problem happen in that same 12-month time frame. So I think it's easier budget-wise for us to leave that full number in there year after year and then just drop that number as we start replacing those.
Couldn't you also have like a
so
failure
like if one
cascade
year-
where one fails and then the other trying to make it up and then
Yeah,
they're
that's
struggling
kind of the
and
concern there is, yeah, if we do go down one, who knows if that's gonna stress out the rest of the system, and all 6 could go at any time, so
So
with
if we had
those,
2 go in a year or whatever, then you can knock that number down.
yeah.
sure. I guess I'm just seeing it as it's kind of,
You could probably cut it in half and then
that's
be safe, but
what I'm thinking. If we could cut that in half, because the chances of all of them going out at once is pretty much impossible, I would think. Or, I mean, even still, who knows what's gonna
a
happen, but
power surge and wipe them all out.
I guess that could be, but wouldn't insurance cover that?
Would it?
I don't know. I don't know how that
He
works.
says no.
Okay,
No,
interesting.
It doesn't.
Okay. Well, I
Every
guess,
one of those furnaces, every one of those air conditioners have a computer in them.
sure,
In the last 2 years, they've been putting in surge protectors in them because of that reason.
okay.
Because if you don't have it and it burns that board out, insurance ain't gonna pay for it. And homeowner or business owner, whatever, is gonna eat an $8,000 board. It sounds ridiculous, but that's what a board costs. To have somebody come in and replace that board, you can replace the furnace completely for, say, 16,000, but it's 8,000 just to replace the board.
So how much are surge protectors? Is that something we can put in line easily or not really?
They go in line on them, but, you know, like, the air conditioners for this building are all 3-phase. That's a completely different game.
Okay,
Could also
Not-
protect it at the meter too.
Newer homes have to have surge protectors in them, but that's only been in the last year or so. So this building does not have a surge protector in the meter.
could we potentially look into potentially budgeting for a surge protector and knocking down, I don't know how much those are, for the whole facility to protect everything, and then knocking down the budgeted for the furnaces and AC?
These are original furnaces in here. And what year was the city hall built?
06?
06.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you right now, you're living on 10 years of borrowed time. Every manufacturer of furnaces is a 10-year life expectancy. Anything above and beyond that, you're living by the grace of God.
Have we had like a workup on any of our stuff, or like, do we ever had like an evaluation, you know, checked the heat exchangers, checked the AC stuff, I guess a status report or a health report on our stuff to see where it's standing? Because I know a lot of stuff built in those days is just so much better than the stuff nowadays. Is there any way to tell that?
Yeah, we did. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure exactly when, but I know we had the AC units evaluated when one went down. We had to look at them all to see if because one was leaking real bad.
Was that like 2 years ago?
Like last year.
Last year?
I'd have to look it up, honestly. And kind of the same thing, when we have we had a furnace go down at one point, and we had them out, and like, can you just look over the one next to it, see how, you know, that kind of stuff, but not like a full thorough of everything, but I think the AC one we did, because that was slated for repair, or replacement, I mean, was that a couple of years, or was that last year? I can't remember now.
I think it was a couple years ago.
Yeah, so we
Because-
did it, we have done it before, but we don't do it routinely, I wouldn't say.
Because when the furnace goes out in the middle of the night, or when you have to have an emergency guy come in, you can damn near double the cost. It's cheaper to replace it before you need to replace it than it is to when you need to replace it. The only way you're gonna find out on the furnaces, you're gonna have to have a service company come in. They're gonna have to run a scope down the burner tubes to check that they're not cracked. You may not know they're cracked. I've been into people's houses and you could physically see the crack in it. And they said, you're scamming me. dude, I'd have to red tag it, because that's dumping carbon monoxide in your home. What you do after I red tag it, that's up to you, but that's the only way you're gonna tell. You gotta run an ORSAT test on it, combustion analyzation, run a scope down the burner tubes to see if the burners are cracked. You don't know that until you look at it.
I'm not aware of any of those kind of inspections.
They're not, and I talked to our Sun Mechanical, our contractor, about this issue, and they were like, yeah, you're better off at this point just letting them kind of go out as they go out and replacing them, because
Right.
they haven't done any maintenance in those many years, and it's, not cheap to be on those maintenance schedules with them either. And they basically said too, they're hitting their lifespan, so you might want to keep the money in there, replace them as they go out.
And
That's
I'm
how I
under,
kind of feel. If it works, don't fix it.
and I'm under the impression that, if you have, say you have 8 units, and say next year we have one go down, you replace that one. And I'm sure the 5 could maintain while they're replacing the one. I would hope that it's built to that. But then you're risk averse, because say if you have one this year, one next year, one the next year after that, if there's one year where one manufacturer had a really bad board or a really bad product, you're not stuck with 8 bad furnaces. You're diversified away, less risk. It's kind of like Travis probably wouldn't want to go buy all 8 or all 10 of his squad cars in one year, because they all could be shot, garbage. So I think if we plan, worst case, say we're going to replace 3 in our budget, and we plan, and one goes out this year, we replace that one, and one goes out next year, we replace the one, because then you're diversified away from a potential bad year of product. Like, I wouldn't buy anything 2020 or 2021. During COVID, I wouldn't buy anything, but at the time, had we have done that, we could have been stuck with 8 new furnaces that are junk, and you don't know till afterwards, so.
I don't disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
I think what you ought to do is, if you're gonna cut that, I think you should leave in the budget for replacing 1 or 2.
Sure.
One.
Or 2.
I would say 2.
I'd say 2.
I'd say budget 2, replace 1, have somebody, just like the company I work for, Apollo, come in, you would have a service tech come in, go through all the furnaces, scope them, see which one's the weakest, replace that one, have a budgeted for a second one, because
Just in
it might
case.
go out,
Sure.
then do that. It's the philosophy, when you build a new home, you put a new furnace, new water heater, new refrigerator, new washer, new dishwasher, new dryer, all that stuff. 9 times out of 10, they all fail at the same time, not
Correct.
one at another. So you're better off, I don't disagree with that, but for this purpose, I understand what Nick is saying, but if we keep budgeting that amount of money, by the time we end up replacing them all, we're gonna have $350,000 sitting there, and we shouldn't have to ask for any
Right.
money. I don't disagree. We could probably cut that, you got, what, $87,000 in there? We could probably cut that down to $30,000 and just budget that.
Do 1 per year on a more
At least
consistent.
More consistently, and just do 1 per year. Don't skip it, just
Sure.
make sure we do it. Not just have that money sit there in case it goes out.
That makes sense.
Because it's cheaper to replace it before it goes out than when it's a necessity.
I like that idea,
And
kind of a
just-
step plan.
Just to kind of touch on our funding source, we don't change what we levy based on what we're paying out this year in the CIP, because our CIP is projected to cover itself over the next 20 years. So even if we do spread this out, it's not changing what we're going to levy this year for the CIP.
Sure.
That number's still pretty set to stick to kind of our long-term plan too. So just so you know. if
It
we
won't
do-
change much. I understand that.
Yeah, well, and if we keep that 42,000 in there, it's not saying that we needed 42,000 in 27 and 28 and 29. Instead,
my
that,
question.
what we projected in 27 just is what it is, and now we're moving it ahead from there. So we may have projected 42, but we might use 0. So then when we come back to it to reevaluate, that number in 27 goes to 0 and we bump it to 28. So in my mind, I think that it's much easier planning-wise to track it all as one big number versus trying to spread that out. Maybe we can do it with the intention of we're gonna replace 1 a year, and then hopefully we don't have to replace any from there, but just because we have that 42,000 there, we don't have the intention of using that. We're
Sure.
still gonna do it, kinda like we said, as we need to.
That makes sense. I just know that, every year, I look back and every year we've come in well under budget. So what happens is we tax extra and then we come in under budget, and then essentially in the fund balance it's there, which is great. That's what the fund balance is used for. But then it looks like you're just taking your savings to reduce taxes, which is the point of the fund balance. But I'm trying to get it so that, and Jimmy tried to get it that way, that we were more accurate with our estimates so that we could more adequately be confident in planning, like, yes, we can keep the tax rate level, but we need to be a little more accurate instead of overestimating everything and overestimating the spending, because optics-wise, and for people understanding, like, there's this big misconception from years ago that, or from the previous years, that we're taking money from the fund balance to reduce taxes. Well, that's kind of the point of it, but if you look at the fund balance from 2022, it's at 41%. 2025 audited number was 62%. That's because we've had underages of spending, so then we have all this extra money just because we took too much from the people to begin with. So I think if we can clean all this stuff up just a little bit and make it so we're closer to being on budget and not having surplus every year is kind of the point. I do like that idea of replacing one per year. You can replace the weakest one. I think that's a great idea. And then we're not ever stuck with one bad model year for all 8. You know, it's kind of diversified away from risk.
So, am I misunderstanding? You want to replace them before they fail?
Well, it depends how they look for scoping wise, but if we can get on some sort of consistent schedule.
But you have to stick to it. You can't
Say it's really good this year and then say, we'll look at it next year.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they all seem good and they don't need to be
Well,
replaced.
I'm just telling you right
Yeah.
now, you're 10 years over their life expectancy. Just like some mechanical told them. They're beyond their life expectancy.
We had a furnace in 1994 that we just replaced last year.
There's some
One of
firehouse in New York that's still got a light bulb from like 1910 running that never turns off.
One of our furnaces from '04, still never any issues, still everything's clean.
I don't
crazy.
disagree with you. I
Yeah.
don't ever recommend somebody to replace something that isn't broke, but you need a budget for it.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's going to happen.
Okay.
So when it does happen,
And
Yeah,
when
the
that
money
one
for it,
goes, they
I
all
agree.
go.
yeah.
Nah, not necessarily.
But oftentimes, like, there is an expectancy, and if they're all put in at the same time, they've got to be relatively, they'll go
Depends if it was
relatively the
built
same
Monday,
time.
Friday, or Wednesday. Okay,
Alright.
so that's just something to consider. Sorry for the tangent on that, but that's a big number in our CIP.
And I just want to say what I'm seeing is the life expectancy of a commercial furnace is 15 to 20 years for a standard like commercial rooftop units. And I think that's what we have.
No,
No.
they're standard furnaces in
Like a
here.
house.
They're just a standard furnace that you would have in your house. The
Then
only
why are
difference
they
is,
42,000.
but that's talking replacing the furnaces and the
Yeah,
ACs.
that's 7,000
The
a
AC,
unit
the
for
AC
those furnaces with 6
the ACs are 3-phase, so it doubles the cost.
Okay.
But you talk about that. I just replaced a boiler in St. Paul, and they put in 4 mini split, 1 condensing unit, 4 heads, $30,000 for one house. And that's in the ballpark of what everybody else is charging. I just replaced a water heater today, $3,200.
I think we should do what most normal people do under those circumstances. We can budget the money for it. I'm fine with that, but we don't replace it till it breaks.
Yep, and
That's
that's our
where I like
plan. Yep,
And I'm
that's our
advocating to not budget for it, because if it's in the budget, you're more likely to spend it.
I'm okay just leaving the budget as it, like,
Okay.
I like that it's there. We're ready for an emergency, and
Okay?
I don't think we're overtaxing people in the fact that then we're just ready for an emergency.
I tell you, people across this entire state are feeling overtaxed, and where are we gonna draw the line? You have to do something.
I feel like that's the whole point of capital improvement plans. We're not trying to expand anything. We're trying to project lifespans.
Sure.
And then have that money when the need arises.
And with our CIP plan, we do just have it set that it's a 3% increase to that levy dollar amount each year, so that we are not seeing big increases or decreases to fund what the current year plan is too.
Yep.
So we do what we can to smooth that out to not overburden the residents too. So that does kind of go into that too already.
And this does ensure that we're not having to bond for something.
Right.
Some major expenses.
Well, that's
come
what we
up.
had the fund balance for too, like, very healthy one at that, so. You know, at worst case, you don't budget for all the money, you somehow end up, you have to spend $20,000 extra, you have millions of dollars, you know, or million, you know, you have money available in the fund balance, that's what it's for too. So, I just think that people need to keep the money in their pockets, and that's always something we fought for. Every dollar counts, so we gotta make cuts somewhere, that period. We're gonna continue to see growth in people's tax rate, you know, in the tax levy and what people pay, and people are tired of it, so where are we gonna draw the line?
Yeah, no, a low tax rate will hopefully entice more business into the community, which.
It has, big time.
I think it already has. I think what we've been working on has been working.
But every year we've gone through it like this and said, hey, we're gonna have to make a hard decision here and there, so. All right, sorry, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, so then moving on to PD, they have 2 squad replacements, and then their other significant replacement is that they need to reevaluate their heating and cooling system. I don't know how much Travis really got into it last year, but they had some issues with their geothermal out in their shed that caused it to get real cold. And I know we talked about some of the repair costs there, but he can touch a little more on why that system's kind of necessary and kind of the other issues that potentially could have given us too, with us not being able to keep that building over freezing.
I don't remember what we have for repair costs. I'm guessing 15,000-ish just from last winter. So there's 3 residential geo pumps in the garage. And one of them failed sometime at night, coming in the morning, and our faucets and sinks were froze in the garage, but on the common wall side. So we had Sun come out on emergency contract to fix it because one of the 3 failed. 2 were running, but the 2 couldn't keep it above 20 degrees. So they fixed the 3rd one, got it back up and going. I think that's where about $15,000 repair on that one. So the issues with just that building is that conditioned garage space is block wall with polystyrene poured down the cores. So there's no insulation in there. And it's a wet system for the sprinkler system. So, which doesn't seem smart, but that's where it is.
Do you have to have that?
You have to have a sprinkler system. We could switch it over to dry system, but I bet you'd be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We have to have a sprinkler system in there. I know there's one in the vault area.
There has to be a sprinkler system in that building, yes.
Okay.
But however, they, you know, when they built it, they assumed it was gonna be conditioned space, so I'm sure that's where they allowed to run a dry system, where most like parking garages and stuff, or wet system, but parking garages are usually dry systems. So anyway, it has to be conditioned. And one of those units failed that sometime between 6 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning. And we got lucky, we had to have Public Works come over with propane, I don't know if that's, I'm not sure if that's acceptable under certain standards, but we use propane heaters to could temporarily bring that temperature up just to keep things from freezing. And then they fixed the pieces that they did. So anyway, that's where we got. I know we're working, having Sun do like an engineering plan. So if we go down this route, we can send that actual spec. And I told them I wanted it spec'd out so that basically if we actually bid it out, that everybody's got to bid the exact same project. The other thing we found out is, and I'm sure Steve can weigh in on this, trying to find people to work on that geosystem. It's ridiculous. The other issue with the geosystem generically that I always thought was flawed, the entering water temperature in the wintertime gets down to about 26 degrees. So it goes through the earth loop, warms it up to 26, where it should be at 50. So even efficiency-wise, I can't imagine that's too efficient of a system.
Are the fields too shallow?
It's either too shallow or too dry, but we have no idea because we didn't put them in. So it's either too dry, so there's not water for the heat transfer, too shallow, or not enough surface area earth loop. But think about that, it's there, 26 degrees it gets down to in the wintertime. And then it goes back out at like that 22, 23. So you're pulling that heat off the 26. So I can't
It's already
imagine.
freezing coming in.
I get it.
Yeah, so I'm surprised it even works.
Is that Fahrenheit?
Yes.
Yes. GeoSource Works
How
great.
how does it work then?
Because there's glycol and there's pressure.
Okay,
But when you have glycol at 26 degrees, the viscosity of it is like pump and slush, so geo
Hard on the
costs
pumps.
money on pumps, that's all it is. So you're moving fluid, that's that. So it's kind of a flawed system anyway.
so.
For this replacement, would that be replacing the field or just?
No, they're going to a boiler system and natural
Oh.
gas.
Abandoning it
100
entirely?
$110,000 for that little building?
Yeah.
That seems crazy.
And I'll get a better number by our next meeting, because we're having Sun do that and give us just a ballpark number.
Is that including spray foaming the whole inside,
No.
outside, the whole roof? And
No.
it's not replacing the roof
No,
and
you're
everything
talking-
for
that's
110
a-
grand? There's no way.
No, it's a commercial boiler, it's still utilizing the in-floor heat loops field.
Yeah.
Right, and then you have to go to air conditioning units as well, because the geo runs the air, is the air conditioning side, so you gotta run air conditioning in there. So you have to run a whole new HVAC system.
That whole building is run off the geo.
No, right, and
It's the air conditioning and even in his offices, those are all operating off the geo. So it's basically take out the geo systems and either put in gas or put in boilers and then put coils in air handlers, which I wouldn't recommend doing. I would just put boilers in the garage part and then put forced air furnaces with central air in the offices. But the problem is geo works really great when it's brand new. But once it starts to fail, it's just rolling down the hill. And you cannot, and when you cannot find anybody to work on GeoSource. And when you do, you make that phone call, it just cost you $500.
So-
And it hadn't even showed up yet.
So last year you had a pump go out and it was 15,000, correct?
Well, the heat pump failed, and that was around $15,000. We also replaced the actual earth loop pump because that was leaking. I think, yeah, we actually keep a spare pump and motor, just because when that fails, the whole system goes down. So I think we replaced, we did that at the beginning of the winter last year, replaced both the pump and the motor.
So you should be good for another 20 years, right?
No, that's just on the earth loop side. That's not even the geo pumps. Yeah, so we've done that twice on the earth loops. That's the thing that pumps it through the ground, but not the actual 1, 2, there's 5 heat pump units in that building, 3 in the garage, 2 in the office. And again, they're residential type units.
What would replacing the field cost?
What's that?
What would replacing the field cost?
Probably 100,000 just to replace the field. Because that's a closed loop system. That whole yard is loops. It's loop after loop after loop. And it isn't the field that's failing. It's just the equipment. And
Well, if the field's
the
too
field-
shallow, then it's gonna be too much
No.
resistance for the pumps and then
No, the field is not failed. If the field failed, it would be leaking water.
saying it's shallow.
It doesn't matter. The ground temperature is the ground temperature at that depth. What it's dug in at is the ground temperature. Plain and simple. It's not that shallow. It's not like it's 3 feet down below the ground. It's down 6, 8 feet. If there's any water in that field, it affects it. If it's too dry, it affects it. You live in sand. I am telling you, I've gone to Econar School in Appleton, Minnesota. I've been through there 4 times on GeoSource. They are the biggest piece of junk you'll ever find. And anybody that tells me they want to put one in, they're goofier than a bat that's blind, that doesn't have their radar. It's not worth the money. It is, a new geo system in somebody's home is gonna be $150,000 to $300,000 minimum
So
to
when
put
we-
it in.
When we bought this building, did you make council aware that system was?
I said it was a GeoSource system, and it was brought up to the fact that it was operating correctly. And at that time, it was. But as soon as it fails, one thing fails in it, it's thousands of dollars to fix it. Because back when they bought that, there was numerous companies that did GeoSource. Now, there isn't.
But it'll be the same thing. Say if we spent $110,000 upfitting all this stuff, you have one piece of equipment fail, it's gonna be thousands of dollars.
No.
Again, it's the same
No.
situation.
No.
Like right now, we're talking about furnaces at City Hall for $7,000 each. Anytime anything fails, any of this stuff, it's thousands of dollars. That's just how it is. So is it really, are we better off just keeping that system and continuing to replace the stuff as it fails? Unless the field goes, because that's a whole different conversation.
And that's the I mean, I don't think, at whatever point, do you put $30,000 into one new heat pump because you want to get it by, and then the next one's another $40,000.
Right.
And the next one's $40,000.
You're on
I don't know
a-
what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is
there.
anyway, because even if we have a failure this winter, and we come to you, and we're like, well, we need heat for the winter, so should we put $30,000 into fixing one of those heat pumps, even though the system itself has issues?
Could we just do a big hanging backup? Like a big hanging say if one goes down and you need to keep it above, at least above freezing, 35, 40 degrees, you just have one big thing because, you know, there's a condo over here, a condo apartment building, and they have underground garage or underground heating that keeps it at 50 degrees, and I gotta believe that they didn't spend $110,000 to have a furnace in there. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to think, how can we continue to use the geothermal? I think it's great, but if you have a failure, then you need to have a backup.
Well, I'm not opposed to having a backup in any regards to that.
Right.
We don't have gas service yet, but that's part of that to get that in there.
Okay, and maybe,
Even if you went to a boiler, I mean, somebody else said redundancy is a good plan. You'd have the same problem because, as you pointed out, we haven't addressed the issue of the insulation piece where it's not holding. I mean, even with that geo system running, I don't know if you've been in there in the wintertime, it's running nonstop 24/7 at 40 degrees.
so could we maybe say put, 30,000 into spray foam and a hanging booster heater?
You still gotta get the gas there. There's no gas to the building.
Yeah.
There was never gas brought to it.
Well, how much is that?
You'd have to get a hold of the gas company because they aren't going to bring it to the building without charging you for
And I
it.
did
Oh, of
have,
course.
Sun is in their process of coming up with just the schematics, that I wanted to have an option of what you're talking about, a secondary backup piece, just as a piece. So we could, because it's not a bad option, because no matter what's out there, if it fails, you're 10 hours or less of failure with all the, like you said, we're not gonna be able to replace the wet system with the dry system, that's not practical.
Right.
I would like to see a guesstimate on energy costs once you switch over. I mean, it
That's
sounds
gotta-
like that could be
Yeah, it's a big
That's
cost
way
too.
more per month.
That's
From
huge.
Switching from geo to actual using.
Yeah, when I talked to Sun,
Natural and-
when they were looking at just those EWTs coming in, that was his thing, is like, the efficiency of this is zero. It's costing you way more to run it because that 26-degree water and the cost to pump it through, you're losing lots of money by however that was engineered or failed or whatever happened. 'Cause they're not supposed to
Really?
be that low.
So how much is the electric bill over there? Because I know just for even just heating our house, that's a couple $100. So, I mean, for a big space like that with natural gas, you're probably talking a couple $1,000 a month.
And how tall the ceiling is?
Yeah, you'd be way ahead having the geothermal versus gas costs, not even close.
You gotta keep in mind, GeoSource runs off electricity.
Right, electrical
So,
cost, right.
and it's, basically, it's running an air conditioner
Right,
year-round, refrigeration equipment year-round, because it reverses it, so it's heating, it's taking the heat out of the house and dumping it into the field, and then when it's taking the heat out of the field in the water, and it's dumping that heat, it's just reversing how the air conditioner works. The only difference is it's using water instead of Freon to operate it. So the electrical cost is probably way more than you ever want to know.
I would like to see an energy audit on something like that, because if we're
Electric
gonna,
cost is $2,000 for the coldest month last year,
$2,000?
Just for the coolest month.
January.
Okay, so what's the lowest on there? Because obviously, that's something we have to consider. If we're gonna switch to natural gas and it's gonna cost us XXX per year versus what we have, that's something we have to consider in long-term costs.
$670 was our lowest monthly.
How much?
670.
So you could say that probably $1,500 of that is just to run the geothermal in the coldest month. You're gonna spend way more than $1,500 on natural gas to heat that.
No, not necessarily. Natural gas is cheaper than electricity, unless you're getting it on an off-peak.
Yeah, or if we do solar.
All right, let's move forward.
Okay, well, I guess we'll have to see where that comes in, but $110,000 seems crazy to me, so.
I think other way insulation should be done.
Yeah, I
whatever
agree.
the
I
thing
agree
is,
with
just
that.
to reduce
Yeah.
the cost.
I agree with that.
If I could interject and just ask if there is anything left for discussion for liquor related, otherwise Keith could head out.
I don't think so. Was there anything else, Keith? There was only the one item in the CIP, the POS system. You think you
Which
need
was
to,
already discussed,
you
right?
think you need to replace the POS system? No, so you're not,
That budget line item is not for the POS system, it's for laptop replacement.
okay, because it says POS.
Yeah,
Okay.
POS slash
Office computers.
Okay, how many computers is that?
They're not going to be Keith's. I believe there are other employees whose time is allocated to the liquor store, so I believe that's covering a portion of 4 different computers.
Let's get them that computer. They actually generate money other than using tax people's money. They actually.
Oh, right,
It's a
right.
business, so I mean, if he thinks he can run it a little more efficient by having a new computer, I'm okay with it.
Okay,
And that money is being used to replace computers here.
and then he gets the hand-me-downs. That's like, how aggressive use are the computers? I know Councilmember Peterson and I have talked about this, like how, if you have a actual PC, I had a video editing PC that I used for almost 8 years full-time, and it still works. Now it's to the point where it needs to be replaced, but how much processing and how slow are the computer, like, how much they need to be replaced?
So we did move to a 6-year plan last year when we revamped our entire replacement the year before, yeah.
What was the length before?
5 years.
Okay,
Which is a pretty long-term plan for emergency personnel, city administrator, police chief, on-call, public works. Have a rotating schedule where they get 3-year computers, just because we can't have anything happen in an event like we experienced recently. We need everything to be working, we can't have everybody's things shutting down.
yeah.
And so, those are the ones we have on replacements. Some staff have take-home backup computers, which is their old computer at home. And so I would say by the end of the 6-year life cycle, they're used, we're struggling with them at that time frame. So there's no delaying that another year, for sure, not 2 years, on all of those
Okay.
devices. These computers are used daily,
Mhm.
heavily.
I think having good equipment will
And
keep
the-
productivity up.
And then we do have the ones that aren't used daily, those are, I hate to use the word hand-me-down, but they are already used. So the intern computers are coming from other department heads who are using it daily, we have a sliding where
Yep.
they go.
Okay,
And so Keith's iPad was one of the public, that's the on-call iPad that's 3 years old, so then he gets the 3-year-old one to do inventory. And they get a new one, so that one's used, but that one's never a brand-new one for what that's used for.
okay. Well, that's fine, you just gotta ask. You guys have any more questions for Keith?
Okay, thank you, guys. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Have a good evening.
It's blowing up.
All right, so we're gonna get better quotes or better ideas on the furnace stuff. Travis, do you know when you might expect to see more on that?
I should have more by the next meeting.
Okay.
Council meeting, and it's gonna be kind of like what our engineer does. He's not gonna give us a quote per se, but just a budgetary estimate. And it should have both everything and that secondary heater, because I asked him just to put that on there as well.
Okay. What do you think about if, say, I mean, I guess we'll talk about this more, but do you think spray foaming or insulating the building would do us enough to keep the geothermal, like,
Possibly, I'm not an energy
Did you-
expert.
okay.
It'll help,
Oh,
but I
it
don't,
doesn't
and it's
help.
not gonna solve the problem.
But it might get, the issue we have now is those 3 heat pumps. One goes down and it doesn't sustain above freezing.
right,
If that gets us there, at least,
you're risk averse?
correct.
Got
The
it.
problem is, right now, if one fails, it's a huge emergency, and then what do
Right.
we do, right? So, but even though the whole insulation thing, I think, rate of return on that, somebody smarter than I can calculate there, but there is a rate of return on insulation
Mm-hmm.
for whatever system we have.
Okay. Did you reach out to insulation company on that yet?
I have not, because I didn't know if that was even something anybody would entertain, but.
I think long-term, that's the smartest thing to do. If we could just insulate it and extend the geothermal, or make you risk averse, so if one goes out and just say one pump goes out every 3 years and we gotta spend $15,000, that's still cheaper than, cost per year than,
Even, the whole point, if one went out, if you had the insulation of backup, at least it'd buy you time, so you're not in what Steve talks about.
Yep.
When you have somebody come out to replace an obsolete system. But,
correct.
yeah, I can try to get somebody with insulation.
I think you should
Okay.
entertain the thought before winter to get what it's gonna take to get natural gas to that building.
Yes,
Because it's gonna cost 10 times as much if they have to do it in the middle of winter. Second of all, the Fire Station 3, they took and they had that same problem. The block was wicking through just like PD is doing. They took and put steel studs up, spray foamed it, and put metal on the inside. And
Yep.
Al said it cut their bill in half.
Yep.
They have a geosource there, but they've had a lot of problems with that, and that was built long after that one was built. And they're having problems finding somebody to work on that as well. But I think you should entertain at least having the natural gas brought into the building, so it's there. Worst case scenario, you put up 2 or 3 unit heaters hanging up in the ceiling, and that way he can try to keep it from freezing in there. But in the long run, you need to look at replacing the geosource.
sure.
It's probably, just for them to show up and work on it, is probably $5,000, just to show up and work on it. It's not, they're pretty serious about that. They don't, just answering the phone costs you $500.
Well, I guess we'll see where it comes in on stuff, so, okay.
Any
So,
other questions on the police department CIP for 2027?
yeah, so I know 2 squad cars, and it kind of goes back to the same conversation we just had. I would rather not see us buy 2 duds in 1 year. And I don't know how many miles are on the Durango or the F-150. But is there any potential that we only do 1, or are those numbers inflated? I know we've kind of seen in the past that they usually come in lower, which is good. But is there any potential that we could just do 1 per year? Or what are your thoughts?
Well, somehow when 5 years ago, when some finance director made that matrix, they were in need of 2 on that 1 year, so they got stuck on there just to get in the right rotation to replace those 2 vehicles. So if we would have fixed that in the year we got 0, then we probably could, but we haven't, we were trying to still play catch-up with that as well. I mean, those are,
Yeah, one's 10 years old, one's 7 years old, so they're just at the end of their life there with them. It is just unfortunately a 2-car year. If we push 1 from this year, it's just gonna push 2 on to next year, so.
I just see it as, we hired a full-time mechanic so we could keep these things running and continue to kind of spread the lifespan. And so I don't know if there's, I don't
yeah,
know. It
so
just,
and I had Josh look at the mechanic stuff, but that's the intent, but the problem is when you're running squads with 120,000 miles now, I run a truck with 250,000 miles and it works just fine for my
Right.
personal vehicle.
Right.
But with the actual use that we have in these vehicles, the maintenance is nothing like you can imagine for your own vehicles. It's
Sure.
hard to put it in context. Hold on here. He had some info on that. If I can find it. No, I don't need that. Where's the one that talks about the years? This one.
So I did this as kind of a layout for him on what in-house mechanics we did on these vehicles.
Yeah, so the vehicles that have 112,000 miles on them get 60-some% of the maintenance. So, I mean,
Well, that's good to know.
So is the 16 Ford Explorer, is that the one we replaced this year?
that, yeah, we still have that one. We haven't got the new one in yet. It should be here. Yeah.
Oh, but that one was the one that's replacing on our consent agenda tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you need another pickup, or can you just get a couple Durangos?
No, actually, we just put that in there. Like this year, we got an Explorer because the price points on the Explorers was great this year. In the past, it hasn't been.
Yeah, it was.
It was
Okay.
$10,000 less than a truck.
Right.
So we'll evaluate the same thing next year. And, we're not gonna get trucks if they're $10,000 more. And actually, I don't think, we're most likely gonna go to Explorers on that one.
So could we reduce
these-
the
I would-
budget?
No, Explorer's about 52,000, if I remember correctly. I don't know what we have in the CIP.
92?
No, for this year's one, the one that we just passed. I haven't pulled it up.
So this number will be coming way down.
And the other one will be going up. But the average is whatever we just passed tonight.
That was 47,000 tonight, I think.
I don't-
Yeah, so
Yeah.
outfitting's another.
15,000 or something?
Yeah.
No, it's 20,000 for outfitting, when you do your radar, your computer, your camera, so you're about $40,000 on top of that. So
Okay.
you're right around that, up, I think we did, it was like $88,000 for the squad tonight,
Oh
is what
my
we actually went with.
And you can't retrofit the older stuff from those other squads if they've been
There's
replaced
po-
already? Possibility?
There's a possibility with this going out, yes.
Okay. I would just, I guess, man, it's a lot of money.
Are
100
squad cars an
170,000.
obsolete thing?
What's
Like
that?
with all the pickups and bigger vehicles, are squad cars not a thing any longer, or what's?
Yeah, that's still, yeah, no, they're not.
They stopped making the Charger too, so.
But now they might make it again.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, they got rid of, I think at least the last year or two, you couldn't buy a car. And now I just saw some stuff come across that you might be able to get Charger cars again. I don't know why that is, but yeah. And it depends on the year. Like some years, like last year, couldn't, this year you get Ford Explorers, the year before you could not.
Through state bid or
Yes,
through,
through state bid.
there's not an option?
No. For whatever reason. It just state bid
Is
is,
it the market doesn't warrant it, so they're just not putting it up there, or is it?
or the market for that vehicle, for that vendor is more lucrative not giving it a state bid. Right,
Sure.
depending on the year.
Okay.
And, I mean, because our goal, or at least my goal, is we have, 6 patrol officers, to have them in vehicles that are under 100,000 miles. And then we transition at that mark to SRO or CSO or Explorers or spare. That's kind of our plan. So we don't get rid of the vehicle at 100, but I'd like to get rid of it as a primary patrol vehicle. And we're running the one still at 122. But I know that one of those Durangos, I think we had $5,000 or $6,000 just in repairs on AC work. And our fleet budget this year, you'll see at the end of the year, at least last week, we were within $2,000 of that budget, which includes fuel and maintenance, which is what you're gonna have with the older fleet. And just in case the question came up, I thought it might come up, so I pulled out just 2 random months of mileage per officer, one before the take-home vehicle and one after, because it's really hard to gauge that. So I grabbed March and May, 25 and 26, and for whatever reason, those two, when I did them, I had to pull a third month, because you think I was lying to you. But those two, like in March, were actually 32 miles less per officer, once we had take-home vehicles, and 4 the other. And then I grabbed a different month in there, and that would have been April, and that was like 300 miles over. So the question is, are we putting on that many more miles because of that program? I mean, I pulled three random months and 2 of them were under, 1 was over. So it's not, it just, they put on a lot of miles just driving around.
And that could be, they could have had a mutual aid call or something that they had to go.
It could be lots of things, right?
Could be patrolling less because they're doing
Could
more
be-
training. It could be, yeah.
Could be, there's so many variables in that to get, but just trying
Not
to get.
substantial when you're putting on that many miles. You're
Yeah,
driving 20 miles a day to work. It's
irrelevant.
not, yeah.
It's an irrelevant piece, but I just thought that might be a question, but just, I wanted to see for my own, then it's, you're not gonna be able to capture that. So I'm hoping, once we get this one coming in, it should be in those 2, at least then we'll be able to operate those vehicles and have the 6 primary vehicles that are still operating at under 100,000 miles. I mean, the thing is, you know, I've heard statements say that you need a police vehicle to go really fast. Well, I don't believe in that. I believe you need a vehicle to go really slow when you need it to. Meaning, we drive down Heritage Boulevard at 30 miles an hour, I can run my tires at 30%, my brakes at 20, and my suspension at 15% in my truck, because I don't drive that fast. When you're driving 45 with your lights and sirens, you need to be able to evasive maneuver or stop immediately at 100%. So we swap out we don't swap our tires out when they're 30 seconds, right? So we want those vehicles to have to be operating in almost 100% in maintenance. So that's kind of the difference between your personal vehicle or even a regular fleet vehicle. Because if we're gonna allow our guys to drive in excess of the speed limit, we have to make sure that the equipment can handle it.
So when I'm looking at this printout here, 225, the 17 Ford was only in the shop for 3.5 hours.
Yep, that's gonna be the new CSO vehicle.
Say that again?
So my plan with that Ford would be, we'll put markings on it and let the CSO drive that vehicle.
What does he drive now?
He's driving, it would be 224, the 2016 Explorer.
And I would just let you know, I only have the data on what we did in-house.
Right.
This is
Yeah, and there was, that one, there was some repairs on it 2 years ago, but yeah, not. But, so just because, so the goofy thing, it says we're replacing that vehicle, right?
But
That
you're
doesn't
just
mean we
handing it
replace
off.
it and throw it away, kind of like the computer thing, right?
Right,
We don't
right.
It says replace, but it doesn't mean we're getting rid of it. I mean, we're not gonna get rid of a vehicle that still has good life of it. I mean, if you look behind the PD, that's the last vehicle we recycled, we're waiting to auction off when we can get a tow truck to bring it to an auction. So we utilize them for a different purpose, so secondary purpose.
So what's the span on this chart? Is this a month, 6 months?
This is for 2025.
Okay, well, that's, I mean,
2020.
well, honestly, I mean, if you look at the total labor hours, even 18 hours in 1 year is not that much time for one vehicle as far as repairs.
Actually, I think I pulled 2026 to.
So
current
eight
date.
months,
Yeah.
okay. Well, even, yeah, if you look at that, 18 and a quarter hours, that's, I mean, even at a shop rate, you're looking at, you know, $2,500. That's really not that much money to keep it going.
But that's why I wanted to tell you again that this is only our shop. A lot of these, I don't have what they've gone to, like John Hurd.
Sure.
and stuff. I
Or
don't
the
have
parts.
that. I don't document that like I do our stuff.
Because I
Because-
said, right now, we're month 8, we've exhausted our budget for the year for fleet.
Right, so I'm just thinking, like, say if we just call a new squad car $100,000 for easy math with everything, it's not gonna be that much, but even if, say, you spend, and you get a 5-year lifespan, is that the cycle, or do we go, what was,
We go 5 and then 7-ish.
okay, so you're talking $20,000 a year depreciation, so you could essentially spend up to $20,000 a year and still be ahead in repairs, because.
Except he's not getting rid of it, he's moving it down to
Right, so
someone else.
would it be 2 years after or 7 years after?
Usually 2 years after, yeah.
So, okay, 100,000 divided by 7 then, so that's 14,000 a year. So have any of these cars surpassed $14,000 a year in repairs?
Some of them have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that would just be interesting to see, because if we can depreciate the asset $14,000 a year, what? Maybe you could come with that?
Yeah, I can bring that to the next meeting, because I know
Sometimes
like
I
Travis
see,
said, we had those AC repairs for 2 of the different Durangos now at this point that are not cheap.
Sure. And that was something that I briefly mentioned to Josh about getting recharge equipment, and so a vacuum pump and a gauges. Was that in the CIP, or how is?
That's already in the operating budget for 2027 as another tool for the mechanic to have available to.
Okay.
handle some of
Next
these.
question,
Good.
is that mechanic EPA certified to handle refrigerant?
He has to take that course, yep, which is available.
Yeah, because if you don't have an EPA certification, you can't buy the refrigerant.
We also have to consider the mechanic's time too, with, like I said, not just working on PD vehicles, working on all the public works stuff too.
Right.
At some point in time, is he going to exceed his workload, and we're still going to have to send that stuff out too, so.
Sure.
Just kind of have to toe that line there too, just to make sure that we're not too reliant on that one person too.
And I know you guys are, the numbers are because I know that's what you're concerned about, and I don't concern myself with repair numbers, I concern myself with having the tools to do a job safely, to provide the public
Right.
service, right?
Yep.
So you're talking $14,000 per officer per year to give them a vehicle. If they're gonna get in a pursuit or have to stop on Heritage because they're going 45 with their sirens on.
Right.
Is it worth spending $14,000 a year so that they have a vehicle that's operating at 100%?
Well, definitely, and we're not saying not.
Right, I'm
but-
just saying
But
that's-
the budget is 40% of our whole city budget is police, so
Correct.
we just gotta
Well,
look at
it-
every single thing.
It's only 40% of the general fund budget, not the
Sure,
city
right.
budget. So that's kind of misnomer when you tell people it's 40% of the budget, when it costs you more to
general-
flush your
the
toilet
levy
than have a
budget.
police department.
Right. Just, we gotta ask the questions, so.
Yeah, so we'll have updated numbers for those squads too, with Travis's new build-out numbers and the cost for the state bid this year, so that'll be an updated number for the September 1st meeting in there too.
Okay.
Then going on to streets, there's 3
I
trucks.
have one more question.
Okay.
With tasers, is that just replacement or moving to taser 10s or?
No, so we did tasers was it last year? And we're not gonna buy tasers this year. We're putting it on there just because we're gonna need that money at some time, because that whole taser thing is expensive, right? We're getting by with what we have, so we're not replacing them right now. But I think this will give it, there's $10,000, we did 5,200 last time, and I talked to Nick, and we were talking to taser. I mean, it cost me more to outfit an officer with a taser per year than a gun. And there's new technology coming out, so it's one of those things where we're trying to hold on to what we have until we have to actually make that switch, but we don't want to make the switch and then not have the funding sitting there.
Are you trying to move to the taser 10 long-term, or are you happy
And
with?
there's another one out, no, Taser 10 is what would be the new one, that we would go with, because they're phasing out like the X2s and the 7s, but it will be 10s, but it's not economically feasible to actually replace them all. I think they're $2,000 a piece, so that's for 2.5, and the other one's for about 2.5, not to including some of the legacy costs that Taser likes to charge you. Or Axon, I should say, likes to charge you.
So we're not replacing any this year, so could that be pushed to next year's?
It will be pushed next year.
Will be pushed, okay.
Yeah. And the other one from last year will be pushed probably, we're gonna try to get
The
through
year
next
after?
year and then come up with a plan next year, and it'll be, 2028 is when
Okay.
we'll have to have a plan.
Okay.
And moving on to streets, there's 3 truck replacements, 2 tractor replacements are kind of the overall view there. Any questions on any of those?
Josh, do all those have to be replaced this year? I think a couple of these we talked about here and there, as far as not replacing them. I think the 08 John Deere last year, we might have pushed back. I think the 04 Chevy 4500 with dump box, we pushed back.
We
Are
pushed that back.
any of
The
those,
2011 has to. It's rusted out, air conditioner doesn't work, we stopped putting money into it,
that's fair?
yeah.
And that's what is that truck? Is that just a service call truck, or what is that one?
That's a fleet truck, yeah, so it actually has our Tommy gate on it too.
Okay.
So we use it quite a bit with no air and whatever. It's just rusted out, the frame bounces when you drive down the road, the whole.
Okay.
So, I mean, that one's pretty bad, it's gotta go.
Do you know what you're replacing that with? Have you picked that out yet, or does it just depend what comes in for pricing?
Well, it would be state bid, I mean, ideally, we've had the best lucks, I think, with our Chevys.
Okay,
Because 3/4 ton or better, you
Yep.
know what I mean? We've had good luck with them.
okay.
I was thinking, you know, the 2004 4500 is 23 years old. I know it runs and everything, but we were hoping to update that because with a newer model, 1-ton 4-wheel drive, and then it would have a salt daddy on it for salting bike paths and parking lots and stuff like that as well, was figured into that. Because this is a 2-wheel drive truck. Even we use it a lot for hauling wood, brush, and things like that, and we get stuck out in the compost site dumping in the winter when we're doing tree trimming and stuff like that with it. So, yeah, it might run and survive, but it would be ideal to upgrade it because it's also done its service, I think, for the city.
Is that a 6.0 gas or 8.1?
That's the A1.
8.1.
Yep. We did put quite a bit of money into it a couple years ago with the fuel. Kept running out of fuel because the fuel gauge would say it was half full and it would be empty, but it has 2 tanks that transfer back and forth, and one tank wasn't, the sending unit wasn't telling it that it didn't transfer or whatever, something weird like that. They're supposed to talk to each other.
Okay.
Yeah, and then is it what's the other truck?
What's the utility vehicle, 3/4 ton, the top one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the former utility manager vehicle, so.
Yeah, that would be adding to our fleet. We also have more guys than we do even vehicles. So I have 9 guys and we have, is it 7 vehicles right now?
Yeah.
And then when I have my 4 seasonals there, they take easily 2 of them away from us. So,
Yeah, utility manager replacement is to get another vehicle in their fleet so that they're able to get where they need to go.
Could you just, is that more, that's more so an issue in the summer? Is there any way you could just use the 04 Chevy 4500 for the situations where you need another truck? Hey, just hang on to that. So replace the 04 truck with the new one, but then hang on to the 04 and you could use that as a utility kind of like a bounce around truck, and you could use it for brush removal or anything in the summer that you'd need an extra truck for that's kind of useful and still runs.
yeah, so you're saying get the Ford and the 4500 and then push the utility.
Yeah,
manager
and
one?
keep either the F-250 or the Chevy 4500 as your utility vehicle. You know, obviously it's a 4500's what is that, a 1.5 ton or a 2 ton? So it's not ideal, but you might be a useful truck to keep, and then you could use it as the utility vehicle too.
It'd be better than the 2011. I know that one's really bad.
Okay.
It actually rides really rough too when you're empty, so.
But they also have 9 employees sharing 7 all
Yeah.
year.
But if you keep, I'm
And
saying
then
if you keep one of them.
13 sharing 7. I mean, I understand, but, I mean, if you have 13 people working, sharing 7 vehicles, that's a lot of people sharing vehicles.
Yeah, and inside, like, you have the Ranger, there's usually somebody driving around in that. You have the lawnmowers, people are usually on a lawnmower.
But they trailer the lawnmowers around.
Sure.
Yeah, but yeah, no, we're shorthanded on vehicles a lot, that's for sure.
So would it make sense to just keep one of the older ones and not replace the brand-new one? So then at least you're up another vehicle? So you're still getting 2 of the 3 vehicles replaced, and you're just keeping one of the other ones as your utility vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at cutting one of these 3, that would be the best of the worst, I guess, if you want
Sure.
it that way. The problem is that the Ford is,
Utility vehicle.
Yeah,
Bad.
definitely replace that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's gotta go.
Yep. No, I'm just thinking like all these things are great, but, you know, eventually we have to keep trying to keep taxes low and do, you know, the best we can with what we got. And I think if you just put a bunch of money in the 04 Chevy, and if that's an 8.1, that thing will run forever. And he's got a dump box, so you could use it for I'm sure if you had 2 dump box trucks, you'd figure out a way to use it.
You'd use them.
Yeah, so I think that'd be a great thing to keep, and then
I would
maybe,
like to say I'd like another 3/4 ton regular truck, but I don't, the Ford is so bad that
right.
that is the best of the options.
Do we ever look at,
Well, pulling one, yeah.
do we ever keep an eye out for good used trucks for sale? Is that a thing ever, or not really?
So I've talked to a lot of dealers and stuff like that. They honestly say if you just went with a 5-year life, we get them at state pricing. And then if you got rid of them at 5 years, they're still worth very little less than what we pay for them. If you got in that rotation, that's what they're telling me is the best from the sales dealers on the value of the truck and the years you have it and what you bought it for. But we're not even close to that on a lot of our.
We're at
trucks.
15.
I don't think I think that's a sales pitch.
And I do want to point out too, even though they show that they're within the streets department, they are being offset by some of the enterprise funds, like the water sewer
Sure,
storm.
sure,
So make
right.
sure everybody knew that.
But it's just overall efficiency. You know, if we have a vehicle that we trust right now, why not keep it and keep running it until next year or the year after? And
I know that 2017 Ford F-150 that the police department's gonna replace is probably a good vehicle. Could you guys use it for something instead of putting it out to auction and getting?
they're gonna
nothing?
use the F-150 for the CSO vehicle.
They're gonna use it, they are? So he's, okay.
They're
My
getting rid of-
only thing is we're talking $50,000, which is a lot for a new vehicle. How much are we paying that employee to drive other employees around and go pick them up and wait for them, or?
Well, right, he'd still be
No.
getting his 3 vehicles. It's just a matter of if he's gonna have a.
Oh, I
3
thought we were talking about cutting out one of the vehicles.
Yeah, and just still keeping the 3rd vehicle.
How-
Cutting out the utility vehicle, 3/4 ton, buying a new, but still keeping the '04 Chevy 4500. So you still get all your vehicles quantity
We're
that
just
you wanted.
pushing it forward. A 2004 is not going to last much longer.
You'd be surprised, those '04 Chevy trucks with an 8.1, those things will run forever.
Well, I'm not gonna comment, because I don't know.
Right.
If that's what, I mean, if that's what you guys want to do,
That's what I want to do, but I just,
do, just
I'm okay with
so.
that.
I think that they need another vehicle,
they'd still have 3 vehicles in the rotation.
a ginormous junker.
Oh, it's not would you say it's a junker? The 4500?
A lumber wagon.
A lumber wagon? Yeah,
Just
it's
a
a
rough
lumber
rider.
wagon, yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, it's a 1.5 ton.
yeah.
But would it be useful to have that truck around still and be using that as your utility vehicle if you need it?
To drive it all over the place?
No, not to drive it all over, but
The guys,
Well, that's what they would do,
That's
right?
what they would
You're just gonna
do.
put it in rotation to
it's the
drive
last
around.
truck now because nobody wants to drive it to Menards or anything like that. But does it run and drive? If I had to pick between that and the 11, I would pick that truck, yes.
okay. I mean, it's easy to say, let's just replace everything, but then it comes down to, 10%.
I'm not talking about replacing everything, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I know as a person who has to drive people all around,
Mm-hmm.
like, there's a lot of time and there's a lot of wasted,
Sure.
what could that employee be doing versus driving around someone, picking up someone?
Which, that's actually, it's a good point, because we did have that conversation, we were talking about replacing or non-replacing mowers that often, because we can trailer them and it extends the life. If you have now a seasonal who's just driving the mower all over, the tires go, everything goes, because you have that many more hours too, so it's the same kind of idea. Yeah, looking at all those ancillary costs.
I'm just saying it because I think sometimes it's like, you think you're saving a ton of money?
Well, no, but what, are we just gonna increase the tax levy 10% every year? We have to make cuts somewhere. We haven't made any cuts. Like, we have to be fiscally efficient here, like,
So you're telling me we have to cut 10% out of this? That,
No,
like,
no,
Nick
no, no,
makes
no.
this And the goal is to cut 10%?
No, that's not a reasonable goal, but I'm just saying, we can't see a 10% increase, continue to see, I mean, I
Is this
think
a 10% increase? I wasn't here last time.
tax levy increase, yes, 9.8%. Minus the changes that were already discussed, so I don't know what that brings us down to for the levy. Now, the tax rate increase is around, 2.48 roughly?
Yeah, so
Ideally, I think if we could get the tax rate to 0 increase, that would be to 0% increase. Now it's at 2.48. I think that's reasonable, but we're gonna have to make some decisions that, make that possible versus, you know, we could just spend every,
Everybody.
what's that?
Yeah, that worked for everybody.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. Maybe I'm beating a dead horse here, but carry on, I suppose.
We got 10 minutes left.
Yep.
All right, so I'll kind of cover some more of the high-level stuff. Josh has pictures of the Matson Park tennis courts that he can hand out. That's in very poor shape, and so they just highlighted some of the big cracks out there.
So I have something to say about all these park amenities. So our park fundraising group, we've had a lot of interest in some of these items, and I would like to specifically, for
Wait,
sure.
I'm not listening. Will you start again?
Yeah, so our park fundraising group, we've had a lot of people excited about it, and I think it's gonna catch like wildfire personally, and I know there's been a few people that are interested in sponsoring, what the heck are they called? Picnic tables, I know that's in here, so I don't know what we're gonna get for that, as well as the pickleball courts. I think that'll draw a lot of excitement for pickleball, and maybe we do have an option for people to sponsor tennis courts too. So I'm hoping that we can just leverage that park advertising and continue to kind of grow a fund and get people interested. So I would like to see, before we spend a bunch of money on the tennis court especially, because that's a big ticket item, see if we can be successful in our fundraising efforts first. And I know there's still people playing out there. I still play tennis out there occasionally. It's not perfect shape, obviously, you can tell, but people still play. So I would like to see what we can do for our fundraising for all this park stuff. See if it really catches before we just spend the money on it, personally.
Is the 78,000 for the tennis courts, is that a complete replacement?
Yes.
It's a complete reconstruction. So if we put up, it can't get much worse
Because
than
last
that.
time
Maybe
it-
it can, but it's
It
either,
can.
it can.
There
Okay.
was a resurfacing already done on it, and so it's gone beyond that.
Okay.
I think,
People still play there.
14,000 for that resurfacing.
People still play there more than any other court. If you drive to the other two courts, which are in nicer shape, people still play at Matson Park more. So that's
What are the other
Sure,
two?
they can
Whis-
show us
Whisper
that.
Ridge and Academy Park.
Oh, by ASA?
Yeah, and Matson still has the most people playing on it, so it must not be that bad a shape because you just go to other parks.
Matson is better than Whispering Ridge, though.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, quite a bit
Okay.
better, yeah, Whispering Ridge.
I looked at the
is-
basketball courts. I didn't look specifically at tennis when I was over there. Okay.
This is all Matson
Well-
Park?
Yes, that's
These
all
are
at,
Matson?
that's all at Matson Park.
Arts and Science Academy is nice and it's hardly ever used. That's pretty new and it's hardly ever used. So, I mean, if it was really that bad, people wouldn't be playing there, and there's people playing there all the time.
I
Maybe
will
we-
say those cracks, you can put your whole hand in them. Like we have a picture from 2 years ago when Julia
It's
was
like
still working
The
here.
size of a
She-
tennis ball?
Yes, you can put your whole hand into the crack. So just giving you some context
Yeah,
on how big
one
it
of the
is.
courts is worse than the other. I think it's the east side.
The roadside, okay, no.
East side,
East
the
side's
street
across
side.
the
Yeah.
apartments. Or not those apartments, east side's that way.
I would like to see what we do for fundraising for a couple of these park items.
If we are not fixing that this year, then I think we need to put a sign up that says, you should visit the one at Academy Park. It's much nicer than this one.
Except for during school, in session, you can't, correct? But summertime you can.
Okay.
I think we should replace it.
This looks terrible.
Yep. I
People
don't
still play
disagree.
on it.
But
That's up to you guys, I guess.
I just-
I would like to see how pickleball goes, and maybe we decide, if we go and replace it now, what if we decide we need 2 more or 3 more pickleball courts in another location because the other one's so busy, but now we already put in 2 tennis courts instead of 1 tennis court and 3 pickleball courts?
But if it get that busy over there, we should be able to add on to that
Oh,
pickleball courts over there.
No, that's true.
I think if we're doing 8, what, they came in and asked for 8.
Mm-hmm.
If we're doing 8, they can live with 8 for a while.
Eight's great, way more than they asked for.
Yep. So I think we should fix that because it is pretty bad. But I look at the next one about the dock repair. How many people are down there using that dock?
I have a question on that, Josh, if you can answer his question, and then how bad a condition is that actually in? Because we have that specifically laid out in our sponsorship program that somebody can sponsor the dock.
The dock is not, I wouldn't say in terrible condition. We replace legs and stuff on it every year. It's the bank is getting, it keeps eroding every year and gets farther and farther away. So our dock is getting really close to being too short.
Well, there's no water this way anyway.
And we already we have the longest extensions on the dock we have now that you can get for like.
I think we can leave, I think that dock can get pushed for a little bit.
Maybe we'll
I'd
get lucky.
rather, I'd rather see us put this money into this tennis court, skip the dock for right now.
And the picnic tables. I think we can find sponsors. Are those picnic tables, are those, can you,
Composite or they would?
is that for in the park or is that for rental or events, I
I
mean?
think they were in
Those are
the,
the in the park ones.
for all the in the park
Yes.
ones, which you could just replace them out with the sponsorship one.
I think we can find sponsors for the benches.
Now, that I'll agree with you on. I think we'll find them.
And we
I think we'll
should
find sponsors on that,
On
so.
the picnic tables.
Yeah.
Should still keep it in our CIP, the funding source would just change there for that. So we'll still want to keep that in the CIP for 2027. It's just hopefully we have $7,000 to spend out of the park fund instead of out of the capital fund to cover that.
Mr. Becker, do you have photos of the dock at all? Or you can
I
describe what's
don't.
going on with it?
Well, the docks, like I said, the dock I think is fine itself. It's getting shrunken down.
Can it be extended?
We bought, you could extend it, yeah.
Is that what the 10,000 is to get more dock to make it?
It would be like, I think, longer middle sections, which is the majority of the dock. The ramps are already the longest ramps we can get for that dock.
I think we should look at more of doing something with the erosion rather than building the dock out larger. And I would think the DNR should be able to come with some funding for that because that's their water rights.
Yeah, because what happens, the water gets high and it cuts a little bit of the bank. We're crossing like a dead river there, is what we're doing.
Exactly, yeah, because
Yeah,
right now,
We can't
the-
control, I don't think, too much of how much erosion goes in there. I know they were down there and put like cedar and
Yeah,
stuff
cedar
on the
riprap.
banks to try to slow it down. Yeah.
But I think that's something that they
Nice.
can collaborate. I'd rather see the tennis courts get fixed, even if it's just something to fill those cracks in before somebody does get hurt.
I'm-
And I think the picnic tables and the dock can wait, personally.
Probably fair.
But I mean, when you look at this, when you say the CIP stays in there, is that actual funds going out? Or is that funds that sit that we can just, I mean, I understand it's always better to budget and roll things ahead. So, but if we have to show something cut, I'd rather see those things cut out of this.
I'm confident we can get the picnic tables replaced, and then that will be them paying, those people paying directly for that. We wouldn't even have to have money. It's not going into a park contribution fund, it's going directly towards that amenity. So it would be, the city wouldn't even touch it, it'd just be a So I don't even know that we'd need those two things in the CIP. I think, so when I was traveling in Japan, I saw some really cool erosion things, like cement, like kind of artistic structure things. That would be kind of a cool thing if we could.
In the water?
Yeah, in the water. They had like.
They have those all over in Mexico too.
Yeah, all over the place. A lot of places do that. So I don't know if there's like I don't know if there's a Cub Scout that could do something like that, like a concrete type, or if there's anything cool that the DNR could come up with, or just something unique for the erosion control. That might be something to look into.
I know we're kind of limited on what we can even do down there
Sure.
when we put all that in. I guess I don't know all the rules on it, but they were limiting us to what we can do back
It
there.
would likely be a conversation with the Corps of Engineers as well as the DNR, because they both require working water permits. From my
Okay.
experience working on the Rum River and the watershed.
Okay.
Travis, you gotta know some context still.
I think we could probably move those out, and I'll go with the tennis courts, and maybe with new tennis courts, we'll be more likely to get new sponsors for that too. bring in money.
I
with newer
think, I don't
courts.
think we can wait for sponsors to fix that.
No, I'm saying after the fact.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
it'll
like
draw
I said,
in-
I don't think we can wait to have that fixed before sponsorships.
I don't think it's that, I think it looks worse in the pictures than it does in real life, but
Are all the things that we skipped, like, they're not a talking point?
no, so that was, the other street stuff would be interesting to hear more on. Is that what you're talking about? And the street lighting? And the furnace?
Well, that's what I'm just, like, we just missed a whole bunch.
Yeah, we did.
And are you assuming that that's not really anything we're gonna talk about?
No, Nick went to
Yeah,
the,
we'll come back to it. I'm just trying to get us these last few big points and we can
Okay,
come back to it.
perfect.
September
I love it.
1st. Yeah. So then the other big thing is looking past the 2027 stuff, we've moved up the Public Works storage building to 2028. Having some storage issues out there. There's maintenance issues that kind of arise with leaving all of our things outdoors, and Josh kind of has pulled together some stuff, has some pictures of all of that too, so we can maybe get into that a little more in the September 1st meeting. But kind of the big piece on that is that bringing that forward from, I believe it was in 2040 or 2041, is it puts our CIP plan $500,000 behind too, bringing that forward. So it is, we believe as staff, an important thing to make happen, but it's also figuring out how we're going to fund that. So kind of just the last thing I wanted to kind of leave you guys with is something to think about before our next meeting. Anything else for me before we call it a
just
meeting?
a $500,000 bomb. What, can you give it, what was all that? Where, a storage building?
Yes, so it was originally planned for 2024, 2025. It was pushed out to 2040.
Yeah.
Council decision made there. And
And
now
then
we
to
are,
share PD facility.
yep, and with the current setup that we have over there, we just think it's important to bring that back up so that we can at least discuss it with council and kind of say what issues we're running into with that lack of space and storage that's currently over there.
That's not on here right now, correct?
Nope, that's in the 2028, so if you look
Just
in the
making sure.
detail there, you can see it in the 2028 column for, I believe, $2.6 million, which about $800,000 of that is levy dollars currently, and the rest is coming from enterprise funds.
So the budget that we've been presented includes that.
The 2028 long-term
Next
CIP,
year.
the 20-year CIP.
Not this year, it'll be next year.
Yes, but I just want to bring it up because that's, I think, an important one to highlight, just because it is kind of making that long-term planning in the CIP not as expected, just since that has been moved forward those number of years. So
But
something I want to get on your guys' radar so Josh can talk more about it next meeting and we can figure out maybe a better solution of when we think that should happen or how we want to go about funding.
So why are we moving that forward 12 years without council talking about it, I guess?
Well, we are.
We already,
Oh, yeah,
we already,
we
We're talking about
I'm
it
just-
now.
okay,
Yeah.
I
okay.
just wanted to get that out there before the
Okay.
September meeting, just because that is a big piece that we just haven't got to yet. So just wanted you guys all to be aware of it, so you can kind of look more thoroughly into these documents and kind of see your thoughts on it too. So
Mr. Becker, you better start saving aluminum cans.
So as far as storage, we didn't touch on this, but Travis, I know everybody's got take-home squads now, and there should be more room in PD, but I know you don't have an external yard yet. Is fencing something that that way you can get these vehicles from inside out, and then maybe they could use more of the storage in that building that's relatively unoccupied other than that stuff, or am I not understanding that goal?
Well, the ultimate goal is we free up 2 spaces if you get rid of lights.
Well, ultimately,
Just
yeah,
saying.
I agree.
Because we have 1 plow truck in there now. We did move a forfeiture out of that and pulled it out to an undisclosed location. But yeah, I'd love to have frickin' fenced an area to store that stuff. We'd have to screen it, I suppose, too.
But would that open up more room instead for storage so that he can get by until, if we don't have, if they have take-home squads, there's not much reason to have squads, and you want to have squads inside, so it should be relatively more space.
There should be, yeah.
So maybe instead of talking about moving up the building 12 years, we talk about giving you $20,000 for a fence.
And a storage facility for lights.
Oh, that's Erica?
I'm just saying, if that's a
Yeah.
long-term plan, that is a discussion to have with this item, right? Because that would free up a quarter-ish of that building that we're not using.
The lights or the?
Lights, yeah.
The lights, yeah, but what about the other, when I was there was like 7 or 8 vehicles inside. Was that just because it was the grand opening or the PD event? Or how many vehicles?
National Night Out.
National
Yeah.
Night Out. How many vehicles do we normally have in, how much space is there normally inside?
So the first stall is always open on the one side, that's our wash bay per se.
Yep.
And obviously the second stall, if you go in, has the lockers and stuff stored in there. Then it'd be your second door, there's cars parked there, then the driveway through and third, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have, I think, 3 vehicles in there and some dirt bikes and motorcycles. And the public works vehicle.
Well, how many plows can he put in there?
There's one in there now,
But if you were to get an external yard, could you fit 3 plows in there?
possibly.
Okay.
Given what we've learned over some repairs that are coming for the wastewater pump, it might just be storage space too, because we have stuff that's been stored out at the water tower and stuff that's been stored in the shed that is being damaged. And, you know, Public Works has done a really good job, Josh has done a good job of keeping things on hand, like to have as a backup, to find out that the electronics are failed, things aren't working anymore because they haven't been kept in a climate-controlled space. So that's to the detriment of, I mean, tens of thousands of dollars of things too. So we're trying to look at all that put together of things rotting away outside versus being inside. Yes, it is pulling that forward, but if council wants to push it out, but I don't think it's realistic for 2040 to keep everything out. And, I mean, it's a big chunk of money, yes, but it's
But in
doing
12
damage, but not-
years,
Yeah.
how much are we going to incur in repairing things because they sat outside in the winter?
Oh, yeah, I would love to hear that. It's gonna be way less than a building ever would be, not even close.
It's gonna be less than yeah.
Than a
Not-
building.
Not even
But-
close.
I had the main lift station pump go out
Josh, talk
last
closer.
Friday. Last Friday, I had 2 spares in my cold storage building. Both of them are bad, and they're blaming it on moisture in the coil, in the windings of the motor, and then they froze.
Sure.
So I have all my other spare lift station pumps in the same building.
And how much are the
And the
pumps?
one pump is $27,000.
It's not a new building, but how much will add up in 12 years?
But then this new building would have to be climate controlled too, and then you're talking,
It is.
And it was meant to be.
then you're talking 20 grand a year there in just
Well,
climate
50
control.
degrees is what it always was said to be. It's minimum, like heat. I mean, it's not,
Right,
not like a working shop or anything like that.
right.
So that's what, doesn't help the case, but now I thought I had 2 spare pumps for
Sure.
my main lift that runs every 7 minutes, and then I don't have either, because we couldn't get either of them working.
Sure.
They're not packaged or contained at all? They're just sitting?
They're just pumps sitting in the,
They don't have them
Covered
packaged in anything. They usually have a crate around them and that's it. They're not sealed hermetically or anything.
So there must
None
have
of those pumps are.
There must have been
ever.
water in there when it was stored. It wouldn't just build moisture on its own like that inside, would it?
no, because we opened the cavities, it's all dry in there. They're saying that the only thing that could have happened is that moisture gets in the windings of the motor, condensation moisture, and then when it
Humidity.
freezes, the wires are so small, that's all it takes. Now I have mag loss.
Okay.
Humidity gets in and then it
So-
freezes in the wintertime and they're shot.
And these are all pumps that when we replaced all the pumps, I kept them, cleaned them up, greased them up, stored them, so we'd have spares. And they both were working when they came out, and all they did was sit in a covered shed, cold storage.
One of the archery range, by the archery range?
Yeah.
How about we put a heater in the archery range?
How many pumps and like critical componentry, like how much space would everything that we have
Yeah.
on hand take up?
You mean space-wise?
Yeah.
Or
Agreed.
I mean, that whole shed is full, the shed next to it's full.
Of electronics or like vital components for public works or sewer
Well, yeah,
water?
I don't, the problem is I don't know if any of the motors are gonna work. I have one spare for every lift station in that building that I thought was safe.
Can they be fixed?
Well, yeah, you can rebuild the windings, yeah. So I actually am getting pricings on rebuilding one of the windings and then obviously a new motor because I have one that's down.
How heavy are
But-
those?
It does pay to have some storage that's heated that I know it's a huge amount of money. But when you start thinking about what we just lost and because of what they're saying it is, and that's what the pump company's telling me what happened to it.
Is that shed over by the archery, does that have a cement slab?
It has a cement slab, yeah.
Maybe we should look at what it's gonna cost to insulate that and put in a unit heater and maintain it. That might be a fix to allow this to be pushed out further. Not all the way, but where we could start maybe budgeting, rolling money into that without having to bond it. That may not be, you could spray foam all that tin and make it a hot roof
Yeah.
and put a unit heater in there. You'd probably want a unit heater. I was thinking maybe a infrared tube, but you don't need that, you don't want that. Unit heater would probably be, well, infrared tube would be
Are we finishing?
a lot better, because that actually heats the objects.
Yeah.
Where a unit heater's heating the air, so you could maintain that temperature down. So that might be a simpler solution. So,
No, will be.
That was your mic drop?
Yeah, so I guess just so you guys kind of know next steps, I'll have updated budget numbers again for you guys to review for the line-by-line stuff, and I'll have an updated presentation. Please take time to look through the CIP list and kind of review what we have coming in the next 5 to 10 years, just so that you guys are kind of aware, and if there's anything that sticks out, we can answer questions for you, but just wanted to highlight the 2028 potential add-in of the storage there, just so you guys have time to think of it, and like we're talking about right now, maybe some creative solutions to keep those things going for a little longer than we hoped to push that off, but just wanted to get you guys thinking so that it wasn't the first time you were hearing it at that September 1st meeting too. So we'll go back through that 2027 CIP list again, so if there's any questions on any of those other items, we can get those answered next time also.
What's going on with SCADA? I just thought we upgraded SCADA last year, but then it's on here twice again for,
One water SCADA upgrade and one sewer SCADA upgrade.
no, but this year I thought we just upgraded it.
Yeah, so-
Every year it's getting upgraded $30,000?
Which one's getting upgraded this year?
One's wastewater and one's water. We have two SCADAs.
Yeah, so there'll be one update this year, one update next year, and then that system will be good for 7-ish years.
But he's saying we just updated one of the two last year, or this
Yeah,
year.
we're updating one this year and we'll update one next year.
But there's two in the list, in the CIP
Yeah,
list.
because they get split between water and sewer each time, so.
Oh,
Instead of funding 30,000 out of water last year and 30,000 out of sewer in
Okay.
27, we just do 15 and 15 both years.
boy, that is expensive. Okay.
I don't think so.
All right, well, we're at 10:11 PM.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Lundin, second by